Right, well, persistent antisocial behaviour offenders could face up to 2 years in jail as Labour plans to reinstate a form of Asbos.
Yeah, the new respect orders, as they're being called, are expected to be introduced as part of the government's crime and policing bill next year in what the government calls a bid to return law and order.
Well, let's get more on this from our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, now, I remember the last time Asbos were around, and if you got an Asbo, it was like, hey, look at me, I got an Asbo. What are these new orders that they're planning, and how are they different, if they are at all?
Well, effectively, it is a return to Asbos of sorts. It's been refined a little in that it won't really apply to children now. It will be adults who are subject of respect orders. But you're right, I remember Asbos as well. They were introduced under the Blair government in 1998 and quickly became a badge of honour for these little scroats that were being given Asbos.
Yeah.
And as a policy, you know, it maybe had some successes. It showed a sort of a focus on antisocial behaviour. But the coalition government, when it got into power, it scrapped the Asbo system. But now the new Labour government, they promised in the election, are renewing focus again on trying to go after the what's been seen as lower level crime, but crime that does blight communities.
I mean, there was 1 million antisocial behaviour incidents reported to the police in the year up to September 2023. That just shows, perhaps, Mark, the scale of the problem. I mean, is this going to go any way to solve it? It's a big challenge for the government.
Yeah, I mean, that's 1 million that were reported. I mean, many more crimes than that go unreported because they are seen as lower level. People don't really rely on the police to respond to them. And they are the kinds of incidents, be they vandalism, be they people drinking and causing a ruckus in public places, racing cars down the streets, they can really blight communities. But I think what this shows, moreover than just the respect orders, is a kind of direction of travel from this government, that it wants the police to return to core policing and away from, you know, policing tweets and all of that kind of focus that we had under the previous government, which came, of course, as part of the online harms bill, where it was a focus on trying to ensure that people online were safeguarded, but really has taken an awful lot of police resources to be able to sort of police the net, which many people are now railing against. So it does signal a return to core policing, which I think will be welcomed by many. Whether the respect orders actually are that effective in the fullness of time, we'll have to wait and see.
All right, Mark White, thank you very much. Interrupting you for some breaking news that the Metropolitan Police have confirmed that the loud bang reported in the area a short time ago was a controlled explosion carried out by officers. Inquiries are still ongoing and cordons will remain in place for the time being. And that is, of course, an explosion at the US Embassy. So that's in London, so there was a loud bang. We will bring you the latest on all of that as it happens.
Now, joining us is the founder and managing director at the JJ Effect, Byron Highton, to talk about these new respect orders. Byron, thank you so much for joining us here on GB News. You lost your brother in the most horrific circumstances to knife crime. In your experience from then campaigning against knife crime, have you found there is a correlation between small-scale antisocial behaviour to lead directly to these horrific attacks involving knives?
100%. You know, the JJ Effect isn't, we're not anti-knife crime awareness, we're anti-knife crime deterrent, so we tell the truth. And this is why I love coming on GB News. I say every time, you allow me to speak the truth. If the public knew some of the kids I'd met around 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, I've met kids that age that will stab you to death, that will kill you, that will literally, and they glorify it and they don't care. Literally, they're walking around like a clothing brand advertisement, acting the same, talking the same, walking the same. So low-level crime now, sadly, quite violently leads to high-level crime. And no wonder the prisons are full when everyone wants to be a gangster because companies are making money off it.
It is very, very worrying. And in your view, do you think that this will work, though? Because we've had these Asbos-type things before. They weren't that effective at all. Do you think this will work?
No, I had an Asbos when I was a kid.
Yeah.
This is why I want to do work, because I've been there and I've done that. But me and my mates weren't stupid enough to be brainwashed, and it's not the kids' fault. How can you blame kids, right, for acting the way they do, when every time they turn the TV on, there's a rapper talking about being from a trap house, a trap star, JD Sports, Foot Asylum, Hood Rich. They're all making billions off it, selling it to kids, e-cigarette companies, and then they claim that they're not made for kids. ZKs aren't made in England. They're put in boxes and shipped to this country, knowing they stab kids up. The problem isn't the government, actually. You know what? I'm not always against the government. I am, in the respect that they've got the powers to stop it. The problem is corporations are earning money off promoting violent content to get kids addicted to it. And I'm sick and tired. 7 years I've been talking like this now. And the only one show that actually listens to me is you guys. It's the truth. If the government want to make a big difference, stop banning people on social media from talking about COVID, right, and Andrew Tate and that, and ban people rapping about stabbing kids up.
So
Stop banning people talking about stuff on YouTube, right? And let's stop these corporations making money off the word trap star and hood rich.
So, Byron, do you think big companies need to take more of a responsibility, as you say, to create more of a profit? And therefore, does the government have a role potentially in having more legislation to stop the companies doing this?
Let me I'll just tell you bluntly here, right? Listen, if I was in Parliament right now, I'm telling you right now, on day one, if the government really did run the country, there'd be no such thing as rappers sponsored by clothing brands. There'd be no knives coming into this country, because if they did, we'd go after the companies, the owners, and send them to prison for life for endangering my children's lives. There'd be no such thing as rappers is allowed to rap about stabbing kids up on primetime radio stations. And do you know what else I'd do, GB News, and to all your viewers? If you stab someone in my country, you are going to die by lethal injection, mate. How about that? That would soon cause the fear in people, wouldn't we?
Byron, I'm with you. I think the death penalty, I've always been an advocate of it, in terms of if you know someone's actually done that, because there's always that argument, oh, well, what if you get the wrong person? I know that is serious. But if you know it's them, and in many instances they're brazen about it, then I'm afraid, then I'm with you 100%. Obviously, there are people who don't agree with that. Byron, listen, we have to go. It's really good to talk to you. I'd love to get you on my show.
Honestly, thank you, GB News. You're amazing. Keep up the good work. I love it.
Well, listen, I'd like you to come onto my show one weekend and we can get it. We'll talk to you for ages. Thank you. Byron Highton sadly watched his brother die in a machete attack, and now he's somebody who is trying to help with the situation with knife crime.
Now, it is time for our poll of the day. Today we are asking, do you back the return of Asbos to tackle antisocial behaviour? We'll be bringing the live results throughout the day, so make sure you keep tuning in. The final results will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show. As ever, if you want to get our latest polls and news on how to vote, gbnews.com/poll. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has backed the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu, but questions remain over whether the Israeli Prime Minister would be arrested if he chose to visit the UK. The Home Secretary this morning had this to say. Have a listen.
The UK is a signatory of the International Criminal Court, so I just wanted to ask if you can confirm that he would be arrested if he came to the UK.
Well, that's not a matter for me as Home Secretary. The International Criminal Court is, of course, independent, and we respect its independence and the role that it has to play.
If it's not a matter of who's it for, well, she was invited on GB News. She declined, or the office didn't get back to us in time for them to be available to comment on that or to be interviewed by us. Well, let's cross live now to Westminster, where our political correspondent Olivia Atley joins us. I mean, we saw the clip from the Home Secretary there. I suppose she was perhaps backed into a little bit of a corner because she wouldn't want to trump what the Prime Minister perhaps is wanting to say. But his spokesperson yesterday didn't seem to be giving a straight answer on this issue.
Well, absolutely. We seem to be getting a very mixed message here from the government. Yesterday, Keir Starmer's spokesman said that the UK is a key signatory of the ICC and that it would respect its judgment. Well, the logical conclusion to that is that the UK will ratify this ICC judgment, and therefore, if Benjamin Netanyahu came to the UK, he would indeed be arrested. But Keir Starmer didn't really want to come out and say exactly that. In fact, even while his spokesman was making this announcement, he was trying to claim that Britain is still standing behind Israel, that Britain is supportive of Israel's right to defend itself. Then this morning we had the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper say that it wasn't up to her whether Benjamin Netanyahu would be arrested. Now, perhaps on a very, very technical level, that is true. It's probably going to be down to the Justice Secretary to decide whether or not the UK should ratify this ICC judgment and release a British arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu. But it seems a bit disingenuous to imagine that the Home Secretary wouldn't be involved at all. She is, of course, in charge of policing and crime in the UK. So it does feel very much as though Yvette Cooper wanted to evade the issue as much as she possibly could. And there's a very good reason for that. Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper know that they're on very shaky diplomatic territory here. The Conservatives, in the form of Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel, has already criticised Keir Starmer, saying that he should actually ignore that provocative, as she calls it, ICC judgment. Meanwhile, America won't be happy at all with the fact that Britain is saying that it will probably ratify this decision. Joe Biden has come out in condemnation of this ICC judgment, and obviously Donald Trump will almost certainly do the same. So I think that relationship between the UK and the US could become very strained indeed. Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer simply want to brush the issue under the carpet for now.
All right, Olivia Atley, thank you very much.